Hi everybody, welcome to the Bluebird Box knitting channel. This is my little spot where I talk about all my knitting projects and my knitting plans and goals and dreams. And I'm really glad you're here. I'm glad you've stumbled upon this if this is your first time. I hope you stick around. And if you're coming back, it's just a joy to have you here. So it is January of the new year and it is lightly snowing outside. It's foggy and not very cold for us, just around -4 I think, and just a lovely warm day out there, even though I'm spending it inside today with my Americano that I made from Nespresso machine. That's my new favorite way to drink coffee in the afternoon. And yeah, if you have joined me for the first time, you're very welcome, and welcome back to everybody who has been here before. So first off, I am wearing my Christmas sweater that I didn't get to actually wear over Christmas. So I thought I would give it a highlight today. I have never worn it on the podcast before. I've just tried it on to show you what it looked like. So I'm trying to stop playing with my hair. My hair is so long. I'm in desperate need of a haircut. So I don't really know what to do with it or where to put it, but this is the Alpenglow by Andrea Mowry. And I talk about it in a previous episode. I also talk about all the modifications I did and how it is a stash and scrap project with 1,000 ends that I still haven't woven in. I mentioned in my previous episode that whenever I knit ribbing, it always loosens and kind of, yeah, just sort of falls into nothing. And this cuff, actually all the edgings of this sweater, I double layered in stockinette. I did that for the cuffs in hope that it would keep my cuffs from losing structure and shape, but that didn't work this time. So I don't really know what the problem is. I know that this is a single ply yarn that I use for the cuffs, so that will not keep its shape. It will stretch out and not bounce back, but I'm not really sure why my stockinette fell into nothing too. So it's on the both of the sleeves. It's still very wearable, but I just find jiggly cuffs annoying, and it's quite a bit of fabric there that I would like to get rid of. I probably won't do anything about it, but just thought I'd share an update about that. And it does seem like the neckline is stretching out as well and I used the same yarn and technique for that as well. So I have a lot of things to share with you guys. I have finished a few things and I have a lot of news and plans coming up. So let's just get into it. First off, for my kids, I have 4 children, ages 4, almost 5. She has her birthday in just over a week. So ranging from 4 to 12. And I made them all Musselburgh hats for Christmas. This is my son's. And I have all 4 of them except for my oldest. Took his to school today. They all like them except for my daughter does not like hers, but she does. I'm not super surprised. She doesn't usually wear knits. She says this one is not scratchy, but that it's too small, which I don't know. It doesn't make any sense to me. It fits me fine. It doesn't squeeze my head, and it's the same size as her older brother's, so it shouldn't squeeze her head. But anyway, she won't wear it. This one, okay, so first off, this one is in Smiling Sheep yarns from Edmonton. It is a fingering weight yarn. It is fuzzing a bit, and it did run quite a bit in the wash, so that's something to keep in mind. My son's been wearing the heck out of it though, so there's that too. And then these two are from Over the Moon yarns. This one is called New Growth, but I think it looks like zombie pigmen from Minecraft, if you know that. And yeah, that's all I can see now. And then this one was, I don't remember what it was called, Jupiter Moons or something like that. Really pretty. It looks to me like Cadbury mini eggs. And these are DK, these Over the Moon yarns. And they are wearing really, really nicely. Yeah, they're just like really nice. Caitlin has a really nice base. So this one fits my 4, almost 5-year-old. She usually wears it like this, and then if we need it to be shorter, we just like fold it a little bit. And we've been wearing them to the ski hill. Yeah, so that was a lot of knitting because it's a big tube. It's basically like I knit 4 sleeves, 4 like poofy sleeves worth of knitting for those Christmas presents. But so far it's a 75% success. And I have other plans to make more of those hats. It's just a really smart and effective pattern, and here in the north of Canada, knit hats are just not warm enough, so I think it's the first knitted hat pattern that I've made that is actually warm enough for where I live. So I will definitely be making more of those guys. Okay, from winter warm hats onto summer knits. So this is a tank top that I nearly finished last summer. I just didn't finish the shoulder seams. I needed to shorten them and sew them up. This is a unpublished design in collaboration with Brittany from Crux Fibers, who sent me this beautiful linen silk that wears so well. So to be fair, when she sent it to me, she told me don't wind it with a ball winder. You need to wind it by hand. So I put it on my Swift and I wound it up by hand. And then because it's so slippery when you wind it with a ball winder, it doesn't hold together and it just falls apart and makes a horrible mess you have to deal with. So I listened to her advice and I did that. And then I also noticed when I was knitting with it that it shed quite a bit. I was just always covered in this fuzz. But once I washed it and blocked it the first time, it hasn't shed at all, and it makes this really nice fabric. So it's a sport weight linen, and I knitted at 26 stitch gauge. And this pattern I sent off to my tech editor, so we still have a lot of work to do to get to publishing, but it is called the Malatank, and that's because this stitch, having this stitch run this way and then down the front, reminds me of those long beaded necklaces that people sometimes wear in yoga practice. Like helps you balance and know where your center of gravity is. So that's why it's called that. And the stitch pattern is from Nora Gaughan's Twisted Stitch Dictionary, and it's really fun to work. And the front and the back are the same shape, just the back has none of the lace that the front has. And yeah, of course I didn't just do it the simple way. I always like to make things a little bit too complicated for myself, but the edging is worked with the strap, so you cast on this entire band, and then the edging is in garter, and when you get to the end of the V-neck here, you join them together and then you decrease them in a way that it makes it look like a picked up V-neck, and the same for the underarms. So I have yet to see if that will actually work out as I hoped across all sizes, and if my math works out. And then the bottom is just twisted stitch. Well, it's not gonna, a twisted stitch ribbing to go along with the twisted stitches in the pattern. So yeah, if you are interested in testing this, I'm hoping for a summer, a June maybe, release date. This took less than 2 skeins for size 3, and the biggest size, which is bust 62 inch or something like that, that's usually what my biggest size is, only took 3. So it's a really yeah, it's a nice little, it's not fast because it's 26 stitches, but it's not arduous like it could be at this gauge with no sleeves. So if you're interested in testing that, just make sure that you're signed up to my newsletter through my website. That's where the testing call will come first. And also follow me on Instagram, because if I don't get all the sizes, then I go there next. Okay, next up is a project that I hadn't even cast on at my last episode. This is a cardigan vest. So it really was just an experiment to try out this new contiguous garment shaping that I've been playing around with. I'm not thrilled with how this one turned out. I definitely learned some things and would change it. For one thing, the vest turned out too big, so I was hoping for a set-in sleeve shape that would fit with my button-up shirts and dresses. So it would fit like this, but this one is too big and it falls off my shoulders. It goes too far. So that's one thing that didn't work out. Second thing is that the back neck is too high so that it doesn't fit well under the collars. One main reason is that I started out this garment with a bigger needle size at the top here, and then I realized that that was not giving me the gauge I wanted, so I went down. So this top part, because it's at a looser gauge, it has more fabric here compared to there, so it bubbles up and sticks up. Another thing I did wrong is that in my mind I would want this shoulder cap to be stronger so that it would hold the weight of the garment, even though this is very light. So I did some slip stitches there, so I didn't knit every stitch every row. However, that made this section, the row gauge, shorter than the stitch gauge here, quite a bit shorter, and so it actually pulls this first part of the sleeve cap towards the shoulder and actually pulls it a little bit upright like this so that it doesn't tuck under the collar of my shirts very well. Yeah, so it was mostly an experiment, although I had thought about maybe publishing it if it worked out really well. So I don't think I will right now. Maybe if I play around with it some more and get the fit right, I might do it. I have quite a bit of this yarn left. So this yarn is Cascade Eco DK, Merino DK. And it is the color, it's just color number 4 on here. I got this from Statement Junkie, which is local to me yarn shop. So I used a full skein for this plus a little bit, and I have a full skein plus a little bit left, and I would be making a smaller size and using less yarn if I did it again. So I would have enough for another one. I really like the fabric, and it's really structured and light, and I think it would be a very useful piece. And I really like how I did the edging, which is just really simple, and yeah, it's just a purl edge with some stockinette, and it just made it like really simple and straightforward. And I like how the V-neck shape worked. So anyway, that was just yeah, not really a fail, but not really a success either. I have another finished object. This is a swatch that I did for a submission call. And the bad news is that it was not accepted for the submission, but the good news is that it was accepted for something else, and I will share that exciting news a little bit later in my plans and dreams section. Okay, now on to works in progress. So the first work in progress that you've seen quite often, and still I'm not done, but I have gotten quite a bit farther on it, is the Gardy Cardi. So this is a pattern of mine that's in the works. I have testers on it right now. They're doing great. And I finished some of the edgings, so the cuff and the collar pieces I finished, and I'm still working on the hem. So I did brioche hemline and collar pieces, which I'm really happy with how they turned out. We'll see if I can remember to do a little clip of me wearing it, because it's so big that you can't really appreciate what's going on here. But it's a drop shoulder cardigan. I didn't really explain to you very well what was going on in this, but this is the same kind of construction. So this construction method is new to me. I haven't seen it done before. It is modified from the Coco Knits method. So the Coco Knits method, you start the back neck and separately you work the back and increase the shoulders. Then you pick up the shoulder seams straight and work them flat. So there's no short rows or increases in the front section compared to the back section, which is increased to create a shoulder slope. So when I read that, I have that Coconut Knits book and I have not knit anything from it, but I was reading it and I just thought you could work the fronts and back simultaneously, and if you increased rapidly along sort of like a seam line on either side, you would create a slope shoulder on both the front and the back. So that's what I did for the Gardy Cardi. So you work the back and fronts together in one piece to the shoulder point, and then you split for front, back, left front, right front, and back, and work them straight, and then join in the body and work that all together, and then at the end you pick up your sleeves and work those in the round. And then finally for your collar piece, so I really like these horizontal lines that the garter makes, but I wanted to balance that off with some strong horizontal lines. So that's why I chose brioche for the collar, because those ridged lines really stand out. But that meant that I needed to work the collar piece vertically instead of picking up along the front's edges and working them this way, which would make more horizontal lines. So there is some seaming involved. I have put in an option for just 1x1 ribbing for your edging pieces. So if you're not comfortable with brioche, you don't want to learn it, you don't have to. However, if you want to learn it, you will, by the time you're done all the edgings of this pattern, you will know brioche, one color brioche flat pretty well. So the brioche is not, this fabric here, this garter fabric is 2 strands of fingering weight held double, and it's quite sturdy, quite heavy, compared to the brioche along the hemline is quite, it's 1 strand and it's quite flexible, and yeah, it's not really structured, it's quite stretchy. So I'm finding that the heavy garment, the edging that I chose, is not really holding up to the weight of the garment. So I'm actually making my brioche hemline double so that it will fold over and have a little bit more girth and weight to it. I think that the 1x1 ribbing, because in the pattern you hold your strands, you continue to hold your strands double for the 1x1 ribbing, it won't have this problem, but I will be providing an option that you can work your hemline to double the length and then fold it over and seam it. So yeah, I'm really happy with how this is turning out. I'm really happy with the testers versions and how they're doing. They're doing very fantastic and helping me make it a more clear and concise pattern. And yeah, I'm hoping that will come out in April to give testers lots of time to finish. But maybe a little bit sooner depending on how many people finish their yokes. I have a project here that I haven't shown you for a while. It's the Seed Star Hap. I talked about this a long time ago. It's a collaborative project with the Fibre Company, who sent me this beautiful lace weight yarn, and I designed a blanket slash hap slash shawl, square shawl pattern with it. It is quite ginormous. So this is also collaborative with my mother and I. So I started this project, and then she so kindly took it over. So she's done the majority of this knitting, and it's worked in the round. You start off with this square that's worked flat, and then you pick up stitches around it. I do this in my start with a square, start with a diamond, start with a circle hat patterns, and also the Carrick's market bag and the Lennox backpack. I'll use this method, so it's just a not so fiddly way, I think, to start something off in the round. And but it becomes very difficult to show what is going on. So it is going to be a like 5 foot wide lace weight blanket shawl, and it has this lace pattern and garter mixed together, and it's just a repeat. So once you start the pattern, you just keep going and going and going until it gets to the size you want. So that one is going to be coming out in July of this year. Yeah, and many thanks to my mama for making it so I didn't have to knit all of these thousands and thousands of stitches. She's done so amazing at it, and it just doesn't do it justice, because when you block this yarn, it goes super flat and the lace looks just amazing. So that's called the Seed Star hat, and it's in the Fibre Company Meadow, which is a mix of a bunch of fibers in this beautiful lace weight yarn, and the color is Bed Straw. Another work in progress that hasn't made much progress, but I have done one step of it, so I'm counting it as a whip. But this is an old sweater of mine. This is the Tea with Jam and Bread sweater by Heidi Kernmeyer, who's a Calgary-based designer, and it was a great pattern, but I wasn't very happy with some of the things. It does have pockets, which is fantastic, but I found the neckline was too wide. I didn't really like the raglan yoke on me. I usually do like raglans, but I just didn't like how that one worked. I did use a completely different yarn and did some fudging to make it work, so that's probably has more to do with it than anything. I used Custom Woollen Mills 2-ply, which I had to knit at a looser gauge than the pattern. So yeah, it's a great sweater, but I don't wear it. And when I was talking about my knitted boot liners in a previous episode, a viewer suggested that I felt a sweater and cut and make boot liners out of that. And then I realized I do have a sweater that I could use, and this yarn would felt. So I went ahead and I washed it and dried it. It didn't felt as much as I expected. However, I know from this yarn, I have cut this yarn before and it does not unravel. So yeah, next is tracing my 4-year-old's boot liners that are currently in her boots, and cutting them out, and I will just hand sew them together. So yeah, that's one thing we'll see if I get done. I usually avoid sewing like the plague, although hand sewing doesn't seem as arduous. I said I was gonna start another Musselburgh, and I already have. So I've started a Musselburgh hat for myself. This is in the Yak Yarnery, Erin from Rocky Mountain House. Her Yak DK in the color I Am Canadian. It's this beautiful, yeah, obviously beautiful burgundy color. I previously made a hat. I made the little pine hat by Layla Raven. And it's a great little hat, however, it's just not warm enough for where I live. I wear it quite a bit under my helmet when we're skiing because it's thin and it's not too hot. But I need something else for working outside. I really don't have anything that keeps my head very warm. So yeah, it's gonna be like 4 layers of DK weight, and that will keep me warm. I think I might run out of yarn. I have a full skein and just this little bit. This is my leftovers from that other hat. But if I run out, I'll just put some scrap yarn in them at the end, and it will either be like a little contrast little bauble-y thing, which would be cute with a pom-pom, although I don't really want a pom-pom. So anyway, if I don't like it, I'll just put it on the inside because you fold it inside itself. So if you have to use scrap yarn at the end, then nobody will see. Okay, on to my plans and dreams. So the biggest news, and the one that I'm most excited about, huge bag of goodness that came from Brooklyn Tweed. So the exciting news about this swatch is that it was not accepted as a blanket design for Brooklyn Tweed's upcoming book project, which will be super gorgeous, I'm sure. But it was accepted as yarn support by that company. So they sent me 5 skeins of each of these colors to make a circular yoke sweater. I don't really know how to explain how big this is for me. Brooklyn Tweed was one of the first companies that that I ever wanted to knit from. So when I started, magazines and books were really geared towards a different crowd than I was in, and I just had no desire to knit anything from them except for some baby patterns from like Debbie Bliss or Sirdar. There really wasn't anything that was like, I want to knit that, I want to wear that, until Brooklyn Tweed came along. And then to this day I still would knit and wear pretty much everything that they come out with. So the very first sweater that I ever knit was a Brooklyn Tweed pattern. It was Tinder by Jared Flood, which is a in pieces bottom up raglan sweater, and I didn't love knitting it because it was in pieces, but it made a beautiful sweater. And my mom, that was like, how long ago was that? My first sweater that I made was like 10 years ago, I think. That makes sense to me. And my mom still wears it, and it's one of her favorite sweaters, and it's held up beautifully because I used a Cascade 100% wool. And yeah, anyway, because it's like in pieces, it holds its structure really well, and yeah, it was a beautiful sweater. So there's like a lot of, I hold up Brooklyn Tweed really high in standards, and then they started making their own yarn and valuing American fleece and American sheep and shepherds, and so of course that also is close to my heart. So anyway, I spent this morning doing my math, so I am ready to cast on. I have swatched and done all that, so, and I've wound up 2 cakes, so I will be getting started on that right away. So the 2 colors are cast iron. This is a natural sheep shade, a really dark brown, and puff. I think this one is natural too. It has like these beautiful, I don't know if you can see that, but it actually has some gray in there and like that creamy white. And yeah, this will be the collar of it. It will come like this and it will transition to white. Oops. And the sleeves will stay dark to the cuffs. It was a design that when I came up with it, I really wanted to knit it. Lots of times I come up with design ideas because for other reasons. I want to try construction method, or I'm inspired by something, but I quickly become distracted and want to do other things. Whereas this one, I really wanted to look for yarn support because I really wanted to knit it. So I'm just beyond thrilled that I get to knit it with Shelter yarn. Oh, and then so I have lots of design ideas that I would love to knit and work up. It's just time. But one I would really like to do is based on this construction method again from that cardigan vest. Knowing what I know from the mistakes I made in this, I would like to make a really long cardigan at a really loose gauge out of this unspun from Crux Fibers. I only have 2 plates of it, so I would hold it with mohair, but I really react to mohair, so I need to find like a really soft mohair, and I would hold it together with that and make it like a really loose gauge. I only have 2 plates. I think this is 400 yards per plate, so that's only 800 yards. But if I did a loose gauge with holding mohair, maybe I could make it long. And if I was thinking like maybe I would do not 3/4, but not half, somewhere in between half and like a 1/3 length sleeves maybe. I think I'll just knit and then see how much I have left, and if I run out and I really want more, I could maybe find something close to match that. I'm not sure. Do you have a mohair? Have you used mohair a lot? I haven't. And is there one that's like beyond soft, that's softer than all the other ones? I'm thinking maybe knitting for olive I would try. Statement Junkie near me carries that yarn. Yeah, if you have any suggestions of one that's like buttery soft, I would love to hear it. Also, if you've knit a long cardigan or a long sweater or an oversized sweater at a loose gauge, how many yards did it take? I knit usually a size, like a finished circumference of 42 inches. Yeah, I have not designed very many things at a loose gauge. I've designed some accessories, and the closest thing was the Always vest and the Evermore vest, but those are vests, they don't have sleeves. The Always vest was cropped. It was at a 14 stitch gauge, I think, and it did not take very much yarn at all, so I don't know. I'm gonna try. I don't have much for shop news. There's nothing, no patterns coming out soon. The Gardy Cardi will be the next thing. And oh shoot, I forgot to tell you. I keep forgetting to say about this pattern. It is a scrap project, so my plan, my hope is that you can take hundreds of grams of stashed yarn and make a huge cozy cardigan out of it. But I keep forgetting to tell you that you don't have to weave in ends in this pattern. I tell you how to just hold yarns together, and I have a little visual video for you, and yeah, at the end you just trim your ends and you don't have to weave in any more ends than you would normally for a cardigan. I don't know if that's my children running or what that noise is. Anyway, yeah, so I just wanted to mention that I did not design this giant cardigan that you have to weave in 1,000 ends. There's no weaving in ends for this one. And if you are taking part in Rachel is Knitting on Instagram, she's running a 2023 stash busting knit along kind of thing, where the goal is to knit 2,023 grams from your stash. Then you could knit one of these and you would have that accomplished. Okay, that's enough about the Gardy Cardi. So that will be the next pattern that comes out, I believe. And then just get on the newsletter list for the Malatank if you're interested in testing that. For acquisitions, I don't have anything except for the shelter yarn. My husband did get me some new things for in my stocking. So he got me these Teague spin cables. They're like really skinny. So they have the same kind of aircraft cable-y thing that the other ones do inside, but it's really thin and really flexible. It's been really nice for magic loop. Also I don't know if this is helping, but the needle attachment spins separately from the cable. I think so that your needles don't untwist. So I tried just hand tightening my needles on to see if they wouldn't untwist, but they do. So I would have to use my trusty technique of this little silicone liquor bottle holder thing. It's like holds the sample onto when you buy a bottle of booze. I would have to use that plus my T-pin to tighten it, and then there's no way that comes apart anyway, so it kind of is yeah, like the spinning part is kind of unnecessary in my life. But the cable is nice for magic loop. I think I would find it frustrating to work with like a heavy garment or something big, but for a little accessories I'm enjoying it. And it's always nice to have extra cables, that's for sure. And they're all interchangeable, like all the Teague stuff fits together, so that's always amazing. Then I can put my cables together to make a huge cable, which would probably be nice. Maybe that would be nice for like making a huge cable for when you have a huge yoke to work on. I'm not sure. Anyway, playing around with that. He also gave me this little grasshopper notions. It's a notions holder from Firefly Notes. And this little sheepy tape measure. He's so cute. I don't have any black sheep with white faces, but we do have black sheep. And I love having tape measures everywhere, so that's great. That one is from, oh, sorry, that one's from Lantern Moon. And he got it at Statement Junkie in Sherwood Park, when they also have a online shop. So our newest adventure is that we sent our ewes. We only have 2 full-grown ewes. We have 2 ewe lambs, but they are not ready to be bred yet. So we sent our 2 full-grown ewes to Camrose to be bred by a Shetland ram. We have Shetland sheep. So hopefully we will have lambs this spring, and we have like no idea what we are doing. We got sheep not quite 2 years ago, and we have never bred them, and we live very far away from a vet who deals with sheep. We live far away from any livestock vet, to be honest, but anyone who deals with sheep is an 1.5-hour drive away. So it's kind of weird because in other places in the world, I would imagine you would have the vet come to your farm and give vaccinations and do health checks and stuff like that. But our vet basically teaches us how to be vet assistants out here. So we have our own vaccines, and we have our own antibiotics and our own pain meds, and we have our own syringes, and it's up to us to maintain the health of our flock. So we gave vaccines to all the sheep. We just have 6. We gave them Glandvac, which protects against a bunch of diseases. And that was the first time we'd ever done that. We've given antibiotics through vaccine before, but not like routine vaccines. So yeah, I'm like really have no idea what we're getting into, and I really hope everybody survives this ordeal and that we get little lammies out of it. I think one of our ewes is older, so I don't know if it's wise that we breed her or how well she'll do, but yeah, we're just figuring things out as we go. Yeah, and the reason I wanted to share, the reason that I didn't wear my Christmas sweater was because on Christmas Eve we go to church. At our church we go to church, and on Christmas Day we don't typically, but anyway, Christmas Eve we had some services, but we also had some family activities going on in the church, and one of them, they asked us to bring sheep for a like photo area. It kind of was like a live nativity, but not really. It was just us our 2 sheep and a little shed and some hay and a manger, and so you could go in and pet our sheep and feed them and get your picture taken with them. So we did that. So we brought our 2 lambs, Bella and Bonnie, and I wasn't quite sure how they would interact with people. Bonnie's quite friendly, but Bella had an abscess in her foot when we first got her, and we had to give her antibiotics, and we had to take her to the vet to eventually get it drained. And it seemed like every time we grabbed her, it was to poke her or hurt her, and so she doesn't like us so much. So I wasn't sure if she would be very keen on it. So anyway, we loaded up the girls and we took them to the church. And the funny thing about our church is it's not like a traditional church building. It's actually we meet in a medical office building on the 4th floor, and we have the entire floor. And so we actually had to put our sheep in the elevator, and yeah, they rode the elevator. And then we had to carry them from the truck. We have a water tote that my husband's converted to a livestock carrier. So we had them in there, and we had to carry them into the church and put them in the elevator, and then we had to carry them to the area where they were fenced off. So anyway, I was carrying sheep, and that's why I didn't want to get my Christmas sweater that gross. So that's why I didn't wear my Christmas sweater that day. Yeah, it was a crazy fun Christmas. We had 18 people here on the property. My parents live on the property, and my family, which is, so it's 8 of us all together who live here, and then we had 10 people come and stay. So my brother and my sister's families and their kiddos. So it was 18 people, 10 of which were our kids, 12 and under. And then they left on the 26th, and then we packed up and we left on the 27th to Regina, where we spent a second Christmas with 17 people on my husband's side. So, and then January has pretty much started how December ended, basically just manic schedules, and I haven't stopped to rest at all. But I don't know if you feel like this after COVID. It's just like you just don't say no, you just say yes, and are grateful that you can see everybody again. So yeah, I think that's all. I don't really have a specific story to tell. We have been going to the ski hill now. The ski hill is open, just this little local one near us, and my youngest is learning to ski. So that's just, it's just a really fun time for our family. I really love it. Everybody does kind of their own thing, and we take turns going on runs together, and if you're bored you go and read in the chalet, and there's no cell reception there, which is just a really beautiful thing these days. So nobody can get a hold of my husband to call him out to work, and nobody can look at their phones basically. So it's just really wonderful to spend time out there. So yeah, I think that's it. I hope that I can come back and talk to you a little bit sooner than the space between the last 2 episodes. I hope you're really well, that this new year is starting well for you. If you are somewhere where there is crazy weather events happening, I hope you're staying safe and able to enjoy some cozy knitting time. Well, if you are here at the very end, thank you for watching, and I would really love it if you would subscribe if you haven't already. I always love to read your comments, so I really appreciate when you take time to do that. And have a wonderful week. Bye.